Hello, and welcome to this special Christmas episode of Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on episode 14 of Chobits. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. Alright, so last we left off, Hideki and everyone spent a good deal of time at the beach by the ocean, and hopefully they all sort of learned a few lessons about, like, you shouldn't let Chobits swim around in salt water, and you should actually exercise safety when on a boat on the ocean. You know, just little things like that. And you know, this little beach excursion is sort of important because Hideki was working himself to the bone and not really making much progress with his studies. So, you know, everybody basically talked him into taking a little bit of a break to try and recuperate. It, you know, may or may not have worked. You know, he did sort of almost drown, which is not known to be relaxing, and, you know, now that he's back, it's, you know, apparently really hot out, which, boy, I for one certainly hate the hot weather. Don't mind warm weather, but I really don't like hot weather. So, now I do have to wonder, is Chi going to suffer from overheating at some point? Because I am aware that computers, generally speaking, have, a range of temperatures they can operate at, and once you get beyond that, things get iffy. Granted, those temperatures are a lot higher than, the ambient air temperature, but, I don't know. I feel like, it wouldn't be beyond the pale for Hideki to have to sort of, cool Chi down because her processor was running a little too hot or something. Now, truly, in my mind, there is nothing worse than being in a hot classroom. Especially when that little sign said that there was, air conditioning maintenance going on. That's always when it happens, you know, right when you need it the most. And the teacher's saying, oh, you know, it'll be ready by next class. Whenever anyone says that, it's gonna get delayed by 3 days. Oh boy. Oh boy. She's gonna pick on Hideki and he's gonna screw the pooch. It really is over. I feel like she's almost picking on him. You know, essentially having the entire class ride on his ability to answer a question when his academic ability is known to be rather poor. Man. Okay, so he didn't even, read out the question and try. I thought she was gonna try and, give him a softball or something, but... well, you know, maybe she did. Oh, dear. So I guess it was some sort of, a language question, grammar, but, I don't know. I always appreciate it when they do give, like, little test questions, like, what sort of, like, actual material are they trying to learn? Okay, so now Hideki's friend is asking about his spare time. Okay, I thought it would be something interesting, but I guess they're just, sharing notes. I feel like Hideki is not the person whose notes you would necessarily want, but if it's either that or nothing, then, beggars can't be choosers. What? Okay, so the guy's saying, like, what's this letter? It looks like an upside-down musical note, and he says, oh, it's a U. Like, there's no letter I know of that, when upside down looks like a musical note. I mean, like, maybe like a lowercase d, but like a U? So it's interesting that Sumomo is now displaying the ability to translate. Like, man, I feel like Hideki would have far less trouble if he could just have Chi help him translate or things like that. Like, it wouldn't necessarily help him on the test or anything, but, he wouldn't have had to have quibbled over getting a dictionary before. Ooh. I feel like, at some point, someone would have had to learn their lesson here, where borrowing Sumomo is never a good idea. She normally ends up bricked. I guess I can't say I blame Hideki for turning it down, but, I don't know. It would have been handy to have a little pocket translator like that. Ooh. Okay, so Miss Shimizu is, allegedly up to something tomorrow, maybe. Huh. That's kind of suspicious that it would be brought up like that so casually. It's like, it makes it sound like she's gonna do something important and, only some people know. Oh. Okay, I think that's like a mosquito repeller. Or, it like makes like little smoke that keeps mosquitoes away. I thought she had like lit in a fire or something. That would have been real bad. Oh boy. Like, man, I can only imagine what sort of havoc would occur if Chi had like gotten her hands on a box of matches or something. Okay, so I guess, if I recall, this was alluded to in the previous episode, like private studying, so to speak. Unfortunately for Hideki, I don't think he, quite understands what's going on here. I feel like there are certain ground rules that should be established, like... Oh dear. This is more like a nightmare than anything else. Okay, I feel like, if Hideki knew this sort of a thing was going to be happening, perhaps he should, have cleaned earlier. For someone who's a teacher... Like, she's really not getting down to business here. Presumably she's here for that, right? I mean, she's just sort of, like, teasing him about this whole thing. Like, I mean, she should have been here to study, right? And if this whole studying is contingent on whether or not she's allowed to stay the night, like, what's the point? I feel like this is sort of violating the sort of relationship a student and a teacher should have, you know? Okay, so, she has some of the fundamentals, but not all of them. She doesn't know all her shapes. Okay, so if the teacher really wanted to teach kids rather than, remedial college, as indeed she is now, it's kind of nice she has to deal with Chi to a degree, because, Chi's kind of on that level in many ways. Okay. It's very interesting that the teacher drops that she's married, but also that she's only married for the time being, as if she plans to change this. And now she's bringing up, is a person kind of better than a person? She's asking some real suspect questions here. I don't blame Hideki for being flustered. This is a supremely uncomfortable situation to be in. And frankly, it's not helped by Chi stacking a little can pyramid. Now, it's also pretty remarkable that he can do push-ups with her on his back. Because, for somebody who's presumably, just a student and, no real physical exemplar, push-ups are enough, but she's, heavy, too. So, I guess they're not actually doing any studying. And this leads me to believe, how is this whole thing set up? So, they're just sort of, playing party games and drinking. It really seems like this is only going to lead to problems. Because I suppose, what's gonna happen at the next class, right? Hideki will have to show up and he'll have to face her, whether something good or bad happens. Yeah, I don't get this. There are just a whole lot of things here that really don't add up to me, because she's a married woman, she's a teacher, she's essentially barged her way into a student's home, and now she's, making out with the guy's persicom. Man. I'm wondering if this is a ploy, because she also mentioned, Hideki, what do you like more, people or persicoms? I feel like she's trying to inspire jealousy or something like that. There's definitely an ulterior motive, but I can't for the life of me imagine what it could be, seeing as how she's essentially a remedial teacher. And I guess if that weren't bad enough, oh buddy. Man, the classic struggle of a young man, man, and now she's so drunk she passed out. There's something going on here, and none of it's good. I feel yeah, okay, Hideki's got the right idea. Put her in the futon and leave her the hell alone. Because surely nothing good's gonna come of this if she's a married woman, as she indeed claimed. I guess when you think about it, if you have to sleep on the futon under a blanket when it's so hot already, that's a recipe for poor sleep too. Speaking only for myself, I can't sleep if it's too hot. Things have to be a certain level of cool. And frankly, the cooler the better. So now I'm wondering, like, is this a dream? Because it could feasibly be reality if she would just sort of, like, get up and ostensibly make a move on him. Like, although at the same time, I do think, like, Hideki could be dreaming about this and ultimately feel rather ashamed upon waking. Okay, so... No, alright. I was gonna say, was the whole thing a dream? Apparently not. So, oh dear. Man, this whole thing is rather suspect if she's just, hanging out in her night clothes. Like, oh boy. Yeah, I feel like the best thing you can do is probably just, like, get cleaned up, get dressed, and go about your business. Ooh, okay. So the teacher's talking about, like, ooh, the one you love and all that. Like, it's interesting she would bring that up, because, that's kind of an oblique reference to Chi. Oh, wow. Okay, so the teacher's like, yeah, no, you're average, don't worry. Like, man. I feel like this really does, I don't know, violate social conventions. Like, what's school gonna be like the next day? Like, best case scenario, it's just gonna be supremely awkward. Alright, so I guess she's having some sort of a personal issue. I'd imagine it's with her husband, but, she's outright claiming that she's being a coward, which, that kind of checks out if she's hanging out and getting drunk with a student rather than facing whatever her actual problems are. I guess it's unfortunate that Hideki and Chi are sort of caught up in the crossfire, so to speak, because surely, like, they're gonna suffer for this too, right? I guess it's probably even worse for Chi because she doesn't really understand what's going on, and odds are she's gonna learn a couple bad habits. Like, it really isn't something that's going to benefit her at all in any way. I mean, it might benefit her as a bad example of what not to do, but I don't know if she's quite capable of learning like that. And already, like, the teacher's lying, like, oh yeah, no, we got a lot of studying done. I mean, I feel like she, of all people, shouldn't be saying that, seeing as how Hideki's grades weren't that great. Man, she's saying, I don't want to mess up your private life, but, like, everything she's done seems to be pointing towards that direction, that, yeah, your private life is gonna get all messed up. And I guess Hideki sort of accidentally stepped on the landmine, like, hey, aren't you married? Isn't your personal life at stake here? And I guess worst of all, he's offering to, listen to her problems, which, while noble, that's really only going to invite more trouble. Sometimes no good deed goes unpunished. Like, I don't know if there's gonna be any actual ramification from this, but if there is, it's not gonna be good, So poor Shinbo, I guess he stayed up all night. Perhaps, the walls were a little thin. But, man. Ooh, Hideki. That's kind of a rookie mistake to just sort of start talking about this stuff. Although I get the feeling, seeing as though Shinbo brought it up earlier, or alluded to something like this happening, perhaps he's also involved. That outburst is rather conspicuous. And now he's being all sort of terse about things. You know, I'm thinking that teacher is playing around with more than one classmate here. She's probably not exactly being honest with anyone, least of all her husband. Yeah, you know what? I feel like Hideki's best move is to just not really interact with the teacher at all anymore. I mean, I guess, like, maybe try and make your way through the class, but, like, don't have any real expectations about anything going on. Like, oh, I guess case in point, like, man. It's kind of interesting that Hideki happened to witness something like this, but it's probably for the best that he didn't do that either, you know? Man, so I guess Shinbo's going for it, huh? Like, despite everything. And I guess, man. So I guess, what's Hideki gonna do with this knowledge, you know? Like, he knows something's going on here. And, I mean, I feel like once you know what's going on, you can't in good conscience just do nothing. Oh dear. I'm afraid someone might be watching, she says, as Hideki lingers in the background of the shot. Like, that's not meant to be funny, but it is a little funny. And, poor Hideki, he's burdened with this knowledge now. Like, can he really truly just pretend he didn't see anything? I mean, frankly, I don't think he's the type to do that, you know? I guess the question is he willing to involve himself in more trouble for the sake of doing what's right? Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. Merry Christmas, Space Cowboy.